Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut, and this is Uboat. This is going to be my first look at the game, and, well, it's not necessarily my first look, as I did play through the tutorial and have gone on Control a little bit, and have played around a few times with this game in its various stages. In its current stage, though, it seems rather rather playable. I haven't encountered any major bugs. The game is relatively stable, has somewhat decent performance, and it hasn't crashed for me yet, so I suppose now is as good a time as any to do a video on it, though I am maybe a little bit late. Now, usually when I make videos like these, they're called, my first impressions of something, where I sort of give you the basic info about the game, what I think of it, do I recommend it, based on, not playing through the entire thing and reviewing it, but based on some information that I have to one degree or another. However, this is a first look. It's very different because, essentially, the game is in very, very early stage of development right now. There is tons more content to be added. Different starting dates, I believe, will be added into the game as well, but in general, there's a lot of stuff missing, a lot of content in the way of customization, in the way of missions, in the way of just everything. There's a lot of stuff missing, but so far, the game is pretty damn decent. And this is the first look because I'm essentially going to tell you what it's all about, how it plays, how it's I think it's the most important bit, how it is different from Silent Hunter, and in which ways is it similar. And yeah, so let's basically get into it. So, this is a U-boat management simulator game, where you manage a certain amount of the crew. Now, you don't manage the entire crew, because that would be a little bit, well, it would be a little bit too much, and honestly not that fun. So let's begin with, well, precisely that, managing the crew. Namely, you start off with these guys here. Now, these are your officers, essentially. Some of them are mechanics, some of them are radio officers, and some of them are leaders. So, this guy here is, let's say, well, his duty is the watch officer, but basically he's the captain, right? So, Graf is the captain, and Collar is his second-in-command, if you will. Essentially, what you do with the crew and how you manage it is you basically need to manage what stations they're manning and at what time are they resting. So, for example, right now, we're fairly close to shore, and I'll show you, we're in the Bay of Biscay right now, near France and near the port of La Rochelle. Now, we're going to dock at this port after a successful patrol in this area of CE, and we've sailed for 2,000 kilometers here, and now we've basically made our way back to the Bay of Biscay, and now we're going to dock. So, we're kind of low on fuel, but I don't expect to encounter anything here in the way of enemy ships. So right now, because our crew is absolutely exhausted, or well, the officer and the first mate are absolutely exhausted, we're going to send them to rest. And also, Larice is also going to be sent to rest because he's absolutely exhausted, and we have another mechanic who can take over for him. So, there are different parts of the ship that you need to manage. Now, a lot of them, in terms of the modules and of the ship, of the boat, sorry. Now, in terms of the modules themselves, quite a few of them are basically okay. There are also random events, which we just got one. So I suppose let's look at this one and then we'll see what happens. Sailors have complained about meals prepared by Alvin Keller, the ship's cook. Okay. He wasted a large pot of rations. Let's just send him off with a warning. Because we don't need, well, anything, really. We don't need... Okay, this time you're off the hook and get to work. We don't need discipline, we don't need pretty much anything, we just need to get back to port safely right now and refuel. Now, let's talk about the different modules. A lot of them are there for when your ship gets damaged. So, for example, there's a workshop. Here you scrap salvage in order to make repair kits. For example, there are also bulkheads which you can seal in order to prevent flooding, or at the very least to localize the flooding. There's also stuff like, I don't know, the bilges, or the valve, or the echo sounder, the gyro compass. Well, the gyro compass is permanently active, basically. The listening room, so on and so forth. A lot of these are for when you actually spot an enemy or get hit by something. So let's see, there is I don't know, I've dived and there's a destroyer above me. Oh shoot, action stations, get ready to repair damage, but also... Okay, these are some very rough seas. But also, very importantly, you might want to man the listening room. So at that point we can listen for mines or the ship sailing away from us, hopefully, or whatever. Flood the tanks. Why would you flood the tanks? Don't flood the tanks. Have I given you an order to flood? No, we're surfacing there. Huh. Alright, whatever. So here's the thing. There's also a couple of very important stations that you need to man for your leaders, and I would argue that these are the most important. That is the observation deck, up here. Now, this will basically increase the range at which you spot enemies, and that is the difference between life and death. If you, in your sneaky little U-boat, can spot the enemy destroyer, cruiser, battleship, dreadnought, whatever — there's no dreadnoughts at this point in history, but whatever — if you can spot the enemy ship before it spots you, you can sink it. If it spots you before you spot it, well, you're probably not going to survive, to be brutally honest. I mean, you can dive, you can weave, you can go out kicking and screaming, but you're going to be in serious deep waters, pun fully intended. Now, why is there a random bucket through the... Okay, let's not look at that. Another thing that you kind of really need to do is not get lost at sea, which is why the navigation route, the navigation table is for. So you man that in order to basically, yeah, have access to this map. Now, you don't need to keep it manned 24/7, though it does provide certain bonuses. For example, if you have a navigator, I believe your fuel consumption gets reduced. Or, you know, if you have a guy working on the engines or maintaining the engines, there's a thing that happens as well, but I accidentally removed him off the diesel engines, so there you go. Yeah, on the if you have a officer manning the engine room, you have an extra gear, so your boat can go faster, so on and so forth. So these are various bonuses, but literally speaking, the only thing that you really need to man in order to keep the ship moving is the navigation system, or the navigation desk. Because at that point, if you don't have a navigator for a long period of time, you then can't plot course because you have no idea where you are. So everything else is there just for the bonuses, and you need to balance manning the stations at the appropriate time and resting your crew. So right now we're in sort of safe territory, or we're in safe waters, so we don't need to keep an eye out for anyone in particular, nor do we need to navigate anywhere because, again, we're close to the shore. And we know exactly where we're going, so the crew can rest easy. We're just going to keep these two guys at work because, well, basically they're fully rested and they have nothing better to do. Alright, now this is pretty much everything you have in regards to crew management. If you take a look at, I don't know, like, screenshots of the game or read about it somewhere and you see that it's a crew management game, it might turn you off a little bit. At least that was the case for me, because I'm looking for more of a Silent Hunter clone, to be brutally honest with you, than a Sim City out of a submarine. And fear not, it's not that intensive in terms of managing every single member of the crew. You do also get to manage their rations, however, and that's something I found honestly quite enjoyable. So you need to provide a somewhat decent variety of food, and you need to provide, well, food in the first place, right? To stop you, in order for sailors not to starve to death out at sea. But other than that, that's about it. The other random crew members on the ship can be assigned to officers. So, for example, this guy, I can assign a sailor to him. Now, what does that do? Well, let's see. It says here, when seamen have nothing to do to assist the officers, they will repair they were assisting repairs on the ship. But basically, I think for him, there's no point in adding sailors. Certainly not at this stage. But if you add a few sailors to the captain, which I've done here, basically that will increase his effectiveness when manning a particular station. Alright, and also there's the combat stations, obviously, but that's for when you actually spot something. The attack periscope, the deck gun, and the AA gun. But that's about it, I would say. There's also the searchlight, but that's sort of more for flavour than anything else. And, yeah, oh, and the torpedoes, obviously, the primary arm of a submarine. You load them in manually with some of your crew members. They take a while to load, as you can imagine, they're pretty damn large things. But yeah, that's about it in terms of crew management. Now, all that remains for you to do is basically head out there and, you know, hunt the, well, the English, primarily. And you do that by plotting course on the main map. This is the main map. If you've ever played Silent Hunter, you know exactly what this is. This is your submarine, you right-click to add course, shift to add, basically, waypoints from one after another, and maths, essentially. You have a ruler to measure distance. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Yeah, I've never figured out how to remove this. There's... Oh, for crying out loud. Alright. I've never figured out how to remove that. That's, that's an annoying bug. Not sure if it goes away when, Not sure if it goes away when you restart the game, but yeah, you can... that one I could delete, this one I can't delete for some reason. Yeah, annoying bug. At any rate, like I said, you have a ruler to measure out distance between you and any point of interest. Mostly these will be ships. You have this to measure out angles between you and the enemy, and you have this to measure out range. Usually this will be for your torpedoes, or your radar, or your sight range, or whatever, so you can measure out how... For example, let's say that this is the range at which the enemy can detect me, and this is the range at which I can detect the enemy, so you want to keep that in mind, and you want to get not spotted by them, and so on and so forth. Depending on sort of how much you want to leave up to the crew, and how much you want to take control personally of the targeting, the spotting, and so on and so forth, and you can do pretty much everything manually. These will be of various usefulness, basically, but all... Well, whoops. But all things considered, that will be about it as far as the gameplay mechanics go for finding the enemy, maneuvering, and managing the crew. Now, once you do find an enemy ship to target, you do get a series of effectively, like... mini-games is a bit derogatory, but it sort of gets the point across, if you know what I mean. They're not literal mini-games, but you do need to, for example, if you want to do it manually, take the attack periscope and identify the enemy ship, identify the speed, identify the heading, and measure out how long it will take for your torpedoes to actually get to the target. Then take all those things into consideration, plot a course for the torpedoes, and fire, which is, you know, a process in and of its own right, and then you can slow down time or even pause time in order to do it. But that's about sort of the bare minimum gist of what's happening in the game. Now, you go on various patrols, and this is probably, from an immersion standpoint, one of my favourite things about the game. Is it just me, or is there water? No, there's no water down here. There's water below deck. There's the water there, but that's what I'm looking at. Okay. Or actually, before we get into the immersion stuff that I really like, there's also badges. So badges you get basically for patrolling, for spotting, for sinking enemy ships, so on and so forth. Basically doing anything of use to the war effort. And there is also reputation. Now, this you get primarily from completing missions. And you can use both of these to improve your ship. Or, you know, your personal, your captain's status and standing in the Kriegsmarine. So, for example, with one reputation point, suddenly, for now I have half of it only, but, you know, let's say that if I finish one more mission, I'll have one. I can basically request that I be allowed to leave port without any missions and just free roam. So I'm a good enough captain of a U-boat that they'll just let me do my own thing and hunt for enemy vessels on my own without actually being obligated to do a patrol of a particular sector. Say they leave that to the less experienced captains, or yes, the less experienced captains. But other than that, you can use badges to basically buy new crew members, upgrades for your U-boat, so on and so forth. This is where the game is currently lacking a little bit. So there's not that much you can actually buy with badges. There are things, but again, if you're coming from something like Silent Hunter, there were a lot more things back there. You could upgrade all sorts of things, from the deck gun to the radar dish to the crew, to their specifications, so on and so forth. A bunch of things. But these are also the things you need to take into consideration. To the left of the sort of progress items, I suppose. Discipline on board, oxygen, fuel, battery capacity. So, discipline on board is influenced by various things, often by random events. So, if you put a load of sailors in a lot of stressful situations on the Atlantic with very little hope of survival, and you start to run into various problems, such as their friends dying, them starving, so on and so forth, you run into discipline issues. Now, most of the time, these guys are volunteers, and they're soldiers, they're sailors. It's not soldiers in the traditional sense, but they're here because they're fighting for their country. And they're not going to just riot out of nothing at random. However, if you push them to the limit, they might, and there are different things you can do. Some a part of that you saw a couple of minutes ago when we had the boat's chef burn a bunch of supplies, basically, because he wasn't diligent. And we could have punished him from anywhere from, like, just a warning to executing him and everything in between, such as toilet duty. So you need to balance those things in order to keep the discipline of your ship high, for fairly obvious reasons. The lower the discipline goes, not good. The performance of the crew will decrease, and I never actually had it drop down to 0 or anywhere below like a... I don't think I've ever had it below like 70, but yeah. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure what happens if it hits 0, but you don't want that to happen. Oxygen, fairly obvious. If you don't have enough of it, the crew suffocates. It's a problem when you start diving. Batteries, pretty much the same thing, and yeah, fuel is self-explanatory. So, now on to probably my favourite part about the game, and I understand that this is extremely subjective, and that, hell, I doubt a lot of people would agree with me, but for those of you that deem something like this relevant, there's a journal. Now, journal is basically this. These are messages that you get from your PC. Not your computer, but the PC on the boat. Don't worry about it. Basically, these are the things that you spotted, so on and so forth. There's also miscellaneous communications. So, for example, Berlin Berlin wished me a fruitful patrol. That's about it. Miscellaneous stuff like that. And there is also the mission. So these are all the reports that we write down during the mission. So we started the patrol on the 21st of May 1941. And this is a mission that we received from Berlin. And then we set sail, a bunch of things happened. We sunk U-11-1164, and now we're returning back home. Wait, isn't that a friendly? Yeah, we'll talk about it. There's also this. This is activities. What this basically is, it's a personal log of the captain. Now, I'm using it as a journal, basically, more or less, but you can write pretty much anything you want here, and just put it down. And it'll on its own, it will put down the date. I wish it didn't do that. I wish it sort of left it up to me, so I'm putting down the date myself anyway. I'm not being very precise about it, because as you can see here, I forgot to put in the year. But doesn't matter, it's up there, so... yeah, alright. At any rate, also it's not the most accurate thing, because I'm pretty sure I wrote this down on May 28th, or maybe I started writing it at May 27th. So, but having your own date is kind of useful. I'm taking up time with useless things. Essentially, here's how the patrol went. We were bound for the West Atlantic to intercept American convoys. British convoys sailing from America. Whatever we find, we're gonna sink. May 24th. Entered designated coordinates. No enemy contacts. May 25th. We made contact with U-1164. She was hit by a mine, which damaged the battery and in turn caused CO2 poisoning of the crew. We mined the boat to prevent it from falling into enemy hands, which is why we sunk it, and that's why you got that message back there, and that's about it. We patrolled the area for 2,000 kilometers, or by sailing 2,000 kilometers through it, and we've encountered nothing. Is that usual? Not really, but it's not that unusual either. So now basically I'm returning to Port La Rochelle to get fuel, as I'm on 30% right now. I could have made a little bit of a trip up to Brittany here and look for some convoys trying to enter the canal, or maybe even going up here, but that would be pushing it. Like, that would be stretching my reserves a little bit too much, and I'd rather not do that. So, there you go. That's about everything, I believe, that there is to show gameplay mechanics-wise. In terms of management, you can, if you wish, customize each and every one of your crew members. From the name, you can't change the voice, at least not yet. You can't change the eye color, but you can change pretty much everything else. The accessories they wear. For example, if I want to have some glasses on this guy, we can do that. The hairstyle, the hats, everything. Which is very nice to see, though I don't necessarily see myself managing 50 different people on a U-boat that I'm realistically not going to interact with that much. Maybe the officers, but the rest of the crew, nah. Though, if you do want to create a crew of clones, I suppose you can do that, so that's something at the very least. Now, you can also, well, you can't do it right now, but there are also skills for the various crew members. I believe only... Oh, we can start also operations. Huh. Interesting. I don't... Oh, we can send people on these operations. Yeah, look, I'll leave this for you to figure out, but essentially... you unlock various things by sending people on these missions. And that's also another way to progress, but that's kind of it. Also, however, if you go over to not to headquarters, to management, officers do have skills that you can unlock with them. And you can also promote them at a later date, or will be able to. I think they need to go up in experience, and then you can promote them. But yeah, that's, I mean, down to the, some very, like not that vital details in the game. I believe that's pretty much everything that there is to do right now. So that's pretty much the entirety of the game in, like, 20 minutes. That's all you do. I'm not saying that as a negative thing, I'm saying that as it's a sort of not that complicated and not that SimCity as it might initially seem. That's basically what you do, and you go out on patrols and you go and sink ships. Now, if this is not something that appeals to you, then, well, look no further, I suppose, because that's all that basically Silent Hunter was. And all we essentially want this game to be as well, at me personally, at the very least, and I do imagine a decent bit of its fan base as well. At any rate, as we're heading into the port now, what are the similarities between this and Silent Hunter? Well, between this and Silent Hunter 5, let's not mention Silent Hunter 5 because it was terrible. Okay, I didn't hate it that much. I managed to find a voice commands mod for it, and that actually like was pretty damn nice. So I had my fun with Silent Hunter 5, but Silent Hunters 3 and 4 were by far superior on a gameplay level, in my humble opinion. And what are the similarities? Well, you did have to manage crew in those games as well. And while respectfully this is different, and this is more of a sort of crew management level, in that when you're actually firing on enemy ships, or when you're actually hunting enemy vessels, the crew does most of the work, and you can actually play it from like a third-person perspective. Also, not from a third, from like a strategic perspective, from here, and that's about it. So you can order him to target the enemy ship and fire, and he'll do it on its own. He's going to take his sweet time doing it, but he can do it. The captain, for example. However, do we have water here? No, I don't think so. Alright, let's get you to your stations. And, right. So you did have to manage the crew as well. If you want, however, you can play the game. How'd you do that? Take you, for example. You can play the game like this as well, from the perspective of a single captain or a single crew member. Do I recommend it? Not really. You need to assign those crew members to certain things, and it's far better, in my modest opinion, to bear in mind where all the crew members are and play the game like this. In my opinion, the game officially says it'll never force you to play one way or the other, or from one perspective or the other. Realistically, though, it's not entirely true. Because here's the thing. The game lets you play it like that, but that doesn't mean that you can play like that, necessarily. By that, I mean, you really, if multiple things start happening and you're just one dude, it couldn't be the difference between life and death whether you control just one guy running around the ship or a few of them doing their own thing, so yeah. Anyways, though, let's go and put you to rest, because crew discipline is suffering a little bit. So, let's put you on the diesel engines, have you rest, and that's about it. Actually, have you play cards. Because playing cards, believe it or not, actually increases discipline to a ridiculous degree. Alright, let's head to port, and then I'll show you, hopefully, with decent... Okay, frame rate's just gone. Okay, here we go, yeah. Okay.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen. Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Let's go ahead and dock. Now, there is one thing I don't like about the game, and I hope that they fix it, well, as soon as possible, basically. It's right here. You see how the boat looks exactly the same, no matter which way it's facing? So, for example, if we turn the boat that way, this green arrow will indicate that we're going that way, but the boat icon will stay the same. Now, for the boat itself, it doesn't matter that much. Honestly, it doesn't. I don't have a big problem with it. However, when it comes to torpedoes, it gets worse. Because the torpedo is represented like a line like this. And if it's going that way, then you see a line that's about that length going that way. And it's not turning. It just looks like this and it's just moving that way. It looks annoying. Is it a minor thing? Absolutely. Are there more important things to add to the game? Absolutely. But you want things to be as simple as possible, as intuitive as possible, and as, you know, as simple to understand and easy to get into, and as just, you know. Oh god, I'm gonna crash my boat. Oh god, I'm gonna crash my boat.
Kurs setzen.
We licked a little bit of paint off, but we're good. Okay, that's why you should pay attention to when you're trying to do something. Okay, let's stop. Let's straighten it out. There you go. We've successfully docked. But I think I've docked the wrong way around, so next time I'm gonna have to, like... Yeah, I'm gonna have to get out of the port like this, basically. But that's fine as well. Alright. So, we're gonna let the crew rest. The entirety of the crew, pretty much. And I'm going to go outside with our captain, my captain, and I'm going to take another, oh. Alright, thank you. And we're going to take another mission. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, it is the absolute dead of night, but, oh, well, worth mentioning, you can use the anti-air guns manually, and you can use the deck gun manually, and matter of fact, like, I would argue that you should. The air gun, and the anti-air gun, sorry, it's neither here nor there. The AI is actually pretty decent at hitting things. With it, the deck gun, definitely use for yourself, because you are bound to be way more efficient than the AI. Whoever will. Why can I not climb down the bloody thing? Okay. Oh, Captain, my captain. Can we get you down there, sir? There, sir. There. No? Maybe? I think we just might. No? Well, you know what? Like I said, beta is beta. You're supposed to get off here, walk down there, but for some reason I can't use that ladder. Anyways, we can talk. We don't have to. We can talk to them from the ship, basically, just like this. And there you go. So this is us finishing the last patrol, and we can now take a look at this. So we can have a specialized crew, increases the officers' limit on board to 6. We can have headquarters influence, allows us to run 2 missions simultaneously, free roam, so on and so forth. That's it from that. But for now, let's take another mission from the Admiralty. So, a joined port of the Bergen flotilla. Travel to Port Bergen and report to your new leading officer. Alternatively, patrol sector CE, but that's something that we just did. Well, we can also lead the attack at Cardiff Docks. That's difficult. That's dangerous. Let's go to Bergen. That's what we're gonna do. Alright, goodbye. And hopefully we'll encounter some things along the way. Let's also talk to the recruitment officer. I would like to choose crew for my next assignment. And there we go. So we can actually recruit one more, can't we? Yeah, we can. Alright, show me that file. So we can recruit, for example, Wolfgang Wagner. Orphaned and homeless, the military committee accepted him out of pity. He plans to rebuild his life in Kriegsmarine. Klaus Wagner. The war deprived him of everything. He does not like people, but still finds himself in the service. Weirdo. Let's not take him. Horst Becker. Comes from a poor family. His father sent him to the army to learn discipline. He hates service in the army. Well, he's not in the army, is he? He's in the navy. As in, you're in the navy now, son. The pharmacist's son, he's in the army for money. After returning, he wants to help his father in business. Gunther Weber. Comes from a poor family. His father sent him to the army to learn discipline. Yes, some of these keep repeating, as you might guess. A German of Austrian descent, a weapons lover and hunter. Service in the army is his dream. Ambitious. Counts on a repay promotion in the military hierarchy. So, let's take... I love the way this guy looks. He looks a little bit like, well, a little bit more military material than the rest of them. So, we'll take Wolfgang Becker. And we're now full on the crew, I believe. Yeah, we are. There you go. So... I didn't have to recruit them because I had these in reserve, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Alright, doesn't matter. But I showed my point, if nothing else. So... we'll take him, though. We'll take Wolfgang. And, that's it. Let's also take a look at the warehouse.
Was brauchst du, Herr Kalon?
Show me what you've got. Open up the resupply thingamajig. Equipment, food, ammunition, fuel. Let's refuel completely. That's one thing I don't necessarily love all that much. Fuel and ammunition and stuff costs budget. I understand why. I absolutely understand why. But then again, if I, the captain, have to pay personally for my fuel and my ammo, I don't know. I don't know about that. Like, I'm okay with paying for some of these things, like the luxury items and whatnot. Fuel? Really? Alright, as you can see, we haven't had the chance to fire any of our torpedoes, and you have to pay for those as well, so... you know. Whatever, I suppose. Ammunition-wise, I think we could buy... What, am I selling these or am I buying these? I'm buying these from here. Yes, yes I am. So what's this? Large caliber AP ammunition. Well, I don't have much in the way of that. So let's buy like 10 of those. I do have some in the gun itself. Well, next to the gun. It's just the storage compartment, but regardless. Food. Well, for food, we'll buy canned meat, I suppose. Buy 40 of that. That costs 6,000. So basic food for the crew costs 6,000. Okay. Amazing. And then let's go ahead and upgrade the ship and see what we can do about it. Diesel engine, snorkel. Research this upgrade in the headquarters. Yeah, can't do anything there. Can I upgrade the deck gun? No. Yeah, I can upgrade the tower. but I'm going to need to unlock that through headquarters as well. So, realistically, I mean, can't really buy anything. We can get better toilets need to be unlocked as well, as odd as that sounds. Yeah, that's about it. We can't really do anything. Okay, so we've taken the mission, and now we're ready to go. Now, where exactly are we going again? Travel to Port Bergen. Where is that? Up there. So we're going to Norway. Which means going through, or either around Britain or through the English Canal. Huh. Or through the English Channel, sorry. I don't know, we'll find out. But point being, I think I've basically showed you everything there is to see in regards to the game. Let's have... You're complaining again. Why are you complaining? What do you want? Burn scrambled eggs. Jesus Christ. Toilet cleaning for you, arsehole. It's the second time you've burnt me eggs. That's just... I don't know. That's just unacceptable. It's like, it hasn't even been a week. Overcooking them is one thing. Burning them? Really? Food is like the most expensive thing in the Kriegsmarine right now, apparently. Okay, what are you doing? We're in the listening room. Fair enough. And you guys are resting. Okay, let's get you on the navigation station. Have you go rest, and set sail. Lovely indeed. Where are you exactly? Yeah, I understand, but you don't really need to do that. Instead, go work the diesel engines. And the rest of you can rest. Okay. So, that'll be about it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I've showed you most of everything that there is to see. I haven't talked about the graphics because they're not that important for a game of this type, first of all. But I will mention one thing that's just annoying to no end for me. Oh, by the way, the ship magically turned itself around, that's fine. Do you see anything? I know you don't. I don't see anything either. It's not a case of YouTube making things darker, which it always does. I literally can't see anything. Like, here, I'm looking at a black screen. What's the point? I understand, like, immersion, realism, yada yada yada, but, like, with this, I can't do anything. I'm looking at a black screen, literally. And if I look up like this, and you're probably not going to be able to see this due to the compression and everything. Actually, I can look at what you're looking at right now. And I know you can't see this, but basically, this is horrible, right? This is horrible because I can sort of see an outline of the ship a little bit, but that's it. If I zoom in like this, you can sort of maybe hypothetically see that there's a deck gun there. It's like, realistically, who knows? But yeah, it's not good, you know. It's really not good. I would prefer if this were lit up, honestly, during the or at the very least if you had like an option to turn on lighting on the outside of the ship, or it doesn't have to be like actual lights, like light bulbs on the ship, but you know, to be able to see sort of everything much like you do here. I understand that there's actual light bulbs here, and again, it's an immersion and a realism thing, but I'd love to see my ship. You know, sod it if it's the middle of the night. I'd love to see it, and again, it's a boat, not a ship, but nah, sorry. I haven't gotten used to the terminology yet, because you know, the last time I've played it was like, what, 2009, 2010, something like that I've played a U-boat game, so, yeah. Actually, no, when was Silent Hunter 5 released? I played it like on release pretty much, and that's about it. But at any rate, in terms of graphical fidelity, it's not the greatest, but like I said, it doesn't really matter that much. You're more sort of looking at not that much at the crew themselves, but you're looking at the sea, which you can't see right now, pun fully intended. And you're also looking at enemy and friendly and your own boat and ships. So ships look bloody gorgeous. They genuinely do. The U-boat looks great as well. And so the enemy vessels. So yeah, all things considered, graphically it's a fine game. It's an immersive game, and I like it. But it does have its fair share of problems. And I hope that they do get resolved as the development of the game progresses. But ultimately, would I recommend it? Absolutely, absolutely yes. If you have any interest in a U-boat simulator, going out and hunting for the dastardly British and I suppose we've occupied France now for pretty much the Allies, then yeah, I absolutely recommend it. But at any rate, that'll be pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed it, and want to stay tuned for the rest of the content that I produce on the channel. Till next time, have fun, take care, and bye-bye.